You know, this is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/FUTURE.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Oh, what a wonderful town we live in here in Las Vegas. Was just made aware that there is a pizza expo in town. Missed out on that. Have to go and check that out at some point here in my life. Let's see. It ends tomorrow, so maybe I can get in tomorrow. Also, I want confirmation on that, Justin. You called it the Steroid Olympics or powerlifting competition? Oh, the enhanced games. Okay, that might be worth checking out. That's a lot of fun. I'll have to go to Resorts World and see if I can get in on that and watch a little bit of it. Maybe compete in like 2 years. Who knows? If I just become some giant roided out freak by the time we get to like 2028, would you all still appreciate me? Maybe. Although I couldn't rock bald, and I think part of it is that you lose your hair. So I don't know. I would have to really think about that. All right, second hour. We have a lot of great guests here for this hour. Tim Murray's going to join us coming up in a little bit. Zach Cohen as well. We're going to get their thoughts on the NCAA tournament and the NBA respectively. But let's start with the NCAA tournament. We have some things we got to fix. We have some bills that are due, if you will. We have to figure out what our contest selections are. But first, let's reset where we're at with the Circuit College Hoops Challenge. Obviously, play resumes tomorrow with the Sweet 16. We'll go over all the lines. There's been some changes, both sides and totals. But we have some contest plays that we have to figure out here. And I've got to kind of think out loud about a couple of things. So let's first throw this up. Yet again, Paul Stone at the top. We are chasing him. He's got 21 points. He's 20-13. Ken Thompson, local radio host and handicapper, he is in second place at 20 points, 19-13-1. We have 4 people tied for third. David Deneen, Tim Murray, myself, and Chris Becerro, all of us with 19 points. Deneen at 18 and 15. Tim Murray, myself, and Chris all at 18, 14, and 1. Best bets have not really been particularly great. You see on the screen right there, nobody with a winning record in terms of their best bets. So we are trying to make do with what we have. So for those who don't know the format, the best bet is worth 1.5 points if you get it right. Push is 1 point, which is what it should be. We'll talk about that later. And, of course, a loss, you get no points. So right now, what I'm trying to figure out is we have 12 picks left. I don't think that's not a lot. And so if you can get a small step up on the competition, I think that's going to go a long way. Which brings me to what I'm thinking about for my potential best bet here as a contest selection, just to play a little bit of strategy. Nobody's listening, so I feel like this is a really good opportunity to catch the field by surprise. I think St. John's is going to be a pretty popular selection, both in this contest and the bracket contest we have up on the website. By the way, go check it out at VSiN.com. You can still get in for the Sweet 16, so make sure you sign up as well for the bracket madness. I think I want to not double down, I don't think that's a proper term here, but really go at it. I like the total under, which I'm going to use as a contest play. We'll go through the contest lines because they do differ from where the market's at. But I think I might use Duke as a best bet. I think St. John's is going to be a very popular selection. We've heard Mitch talk about it. He brought it up on Pod to the Futures. The fact that St. John's a plus 6.5 minus, it's going to be plus 7. What are we missing here? I think that is going to be one of the most used sides of the week for the Sweet 16. So just from the standpoint of being a little bit, contest strategy, I think using Duke minus 6.5 as a best bet might be the way to go if I can get that. If they cover, use it as a best bet, get 1.5 points, and, of course, cut down on a lot of my competitors there who might be using St. John's. We'll see if that's actually a popular selection. Again, I'm just kind of thinking it's not as easy as it was last year. Last year, when we went to the Final Four, I was the only one who could catch Paul Stone, so I just listened to all of his podcasts, found out what he was playing, and played the opposite, and ultimately Paul was awesome, and it didn't really work out. But here, I think I might have a little bit of gamesmanship. So with that, let's talk about some of the other contest plays. For sure, 3 have been settled on. It's also part of our Money Moves contest plays. But let's first look at the difference in the market, in the contest, and where we're at here. Purdue, a 7-point favorite, total of 149 is what we're getting for the contest. Purdue and Texas right now, this is going to be a fun one, but we're starting to see 7.5s appear. So initially, we saw that kind of cut down to that 6.5-point mark, some 7s that were out there. Right now, you see it here, 7, 149. Markets at 7.5 and 147.5 or 148. So if you want to play that total under, playing the stale market, that's probably going to be a relatively popular selection as well. Nebraska, a 1.5-point favorite, total of 134.5. You see it up on the screen if you're watching at VSiN.com. Pretty much in line with the market, save for the total. Big edge on the total if you want to play that thing under. Our contest selection, we get to choose from 134.5. Markets down to as low as 131.5 here at Circa and at other spots. So pretty big edge there if you wanted to play under the total in Nebraska and Iowa. Arizona, 8-point favorite, total of 167.5. That is our contest line right now. 7.5 or 8, but 7.5 the predominant number, and the total down to 166.5. So if you want to take the number with Arkansas, and these numbers do translate to our bracket challenge as well. So if you're listening right now and you're preparing for your own up on the website, these do matter. Houston, 3.5 for the contest with a total of 140. We're starting to see some 3s appear. One spot has a heavily juiced, actually 2 spots have heavily juiced 2.5s that are popping up right now. Total 139.5. So a little bit of an edge on the total, but a solid edge popping up here for Houston for Illinois against Houston. Duke, as we talked about, 7 with a total of 142. Pretty much in line with where we're at. There's some 6.5s, there's some 7s, 141.5, the predominant total. 141s are starting to pop up as well. And as I'm talking, one national book just showed 140.5 over minus 115. So you might get an edge there playing under 142 by the time we get to tip-off of that game. Michigan, contest line, 10 in favor of the Wolverines with a total of 175.5. That is starting to turn to 9.5, 9. And in fact, there are a couple of heavily juiced 8.5s out there. I think that might be a little inaccurate with a total of 9.5, with the 9.5s predominantly with a total of 174.5. So again, you look at the total, 175.5. You can play that under and get a little bit of an advantage there. And Tennessee and Iowa State, 4.5 for the contest, 138.5. Totals in line, markets at like 4.5, depending on where you look. And then UConn, a 1.5-point favorite for the contest, total of 136.5. Pretty much right in line with where we're at with the market. Some 2s are starting to appear here for UConn against Michigan State. So for the contest, for sure, I'm going to use 3, and they will mirror the 3 that we will use for the Money Moves Bracket Challenge Sweet 16 picks because, 1, they're already in, and 2, Stormy's not here. She decided to go to Japan, so I am in charge of everything. If we win, I want all the glory. And if we lose, it's her fault that I didn't get anybody to bounce these ideas off of for the most part. I think that's very sound logic. So 3 contest plays so far. Again, these will both mirror my Circuit College Hoops Challenge and our Money Moves Bracket Challenge. Nebraska minus 1.5. Texas plus 7. St. John's Duke under 142. The question now becomes what we're going to use for our last 2 plays in the bracket. And I don't want to play the same game that I'm going to play with the Duke St. John's side. I will use that in the Circuit College Hoops Challenge. Won't use it here. So our additions, and I'll put these in the rundown, Justin. I will take Alabama plus 10 And let's focus on this one for a second. One of the things that sticks out about Michigan when you've watched them play and when you look at their overall profile, and part of me might regret this considering how good, obviously, Michigan can be, especially on defense. And this is not, because I was talking about this to somebody the other day, and I got that, well, they're not going to shoot it like they were. This is not an expectation that Alabama is going to shoot the ball like they did against Texas Tech in this last round, which was absolutely insane in a 90-65 beatdown of the Red Raiders. They go 19-42 in that game from beyond the arc. To me, one of the things that has stuck out, we've talked about this a lot with Michigan, their penchant for turning the ball over. They turn it over on 16.9% of their possessions in conference play, 16.5% overall for the season. We have seen them, when they have looked their most disjointed, giving up possessions going the other way. Alabama will thrive off of those. Now, they don't turn the ball over a ton on defense. So if they're given free opportunities, it's obviously a really big advantage for an Alabama defense that does not force a lot of turnovers themselves. And offensively, we know how good the Crimson Tide can be. So if you're going to give them extra possessions, I think that does matter. The way they play, I think that does matter as well. Taking the more high-variance shot, they play at a fast pace, but taking over 53%, we'll call it pretty much 54, it's at 53.9, of their attempts from beyond the arc is going to help them, I think, stay inside of it. And especially as we're talking about 10, it's not a big edge in terms of where the market's at, although some 9s are starting to appear. But feel comfortable that Alabama can stay inside of double digits. The score that I threw out to Mitch was like 100-91. Could you see a scenario like that where these two teams are just getting up and down the floor, really battling each other, bothering each other defensively, and having a high-scoring affair between the two? So do think that that's something you could see. So we'll use Alabama plus 10 here in this game against Michigan. And the other that we'll use, and this is the one that I am having trouble with and debating, the market is lower than what we're getting here. So we're willingly giving up a half point, essentially, with where the market's at. But there's a lot of 7.5s, and they're juiced to the favorite side. I'm going to buy in, and I'm going to say this is not an anti-Darius Acuff show, but I don't know if Acuff's got it in terms of this big, rangy backcourt taking on Arizona. I know the contest number is 8, but I'm willing to go with Arizona here against Arkansas. I know the Razorbacks are also going to be a very popular selection, and I understand it, but I have a belief in Arizona that I will not let die. They ended up not covering for my best bet in the Circuit College Hoops Challenge the other day. They pushed, which is fine, but I think they were capable of covering that game against Utah State. Ultimately didn't get there, and I don't think this is going to be a popular selection. In fact, I think Arkansas is probably going to be a pretty popular pick from a contest standpoint. A lot of people buying into the Razorbacks here. Faded them a little bit. Actually, it's interesting. There seems to be this turn here. If you just lick your finger and test the wind, Hawaii was a very popular selection in the first round of the NCAA tournament in the betting market and in some of our contests. Then you fade them against High Point, and that ultimately, or excuse me, then you fade High Point coming in off the letdown, and that ultimately didn't get there either. But I just think there's this weird perception of what Arkansas really is. I think Arkansas is a little bit more flawed defensively than we're giving them credit for when you look at what they've done and put on paper up to this point of the season. 53rd in the country right now in defensive efficiency. In the SEC, they were middle of the pack. They were fine. Had a lot of issues inside. Currently coming into this 275th in the country in two-point defense. So we'll use Arizona -8 there in that contest. All right. Hoops Mania special. Check it out, folks. You can have access to it for $29.99. Everything we do through May 1st. The daily best bets, real-time betting splits, the AI-powered prop tools, matchup tools. You want those. Why? Because baseball season starts tonight. You want to make sure you have access to everything we do, and we do give this to you right now. 24/7 live video, and, of course, the March Mania betting guide still has some links to it. VSiN.com/subscribe. Everything we do for $29.99. All right, we'll throw some of our contest picks at Tim Murray, see what he thinks. You can call me an idiot or not if he agrees. And coming up in 15 minutes, 12 games on the NBA card. We'll get Zach Cohen's thoughts on almost every single one of them if we can and if we have time here on Money Moves. Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. It's March, which means the madness is officially upon us, and the folks at VSiN have really gone crazy with this one. I'm being told that for just $29.99, you can get unlimited access to VSiN Pro through May 1st. I'm talking picks through the tournament, public betting data for every single game, plus sharp tools, projections, articles, and more, which means every day you wait is an opportunity missed. Just click the link in the description to get started. It's March, baby. All right, now back to the show.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The time in Tokyo, 4:14 in the morning. Why that is relevant to this very moment is because that is where Stormy Buonantony is right now. We have not heard from her, and I'm not going to bother her on said vacation, but I was told that we were going to get pictures, and it's been through, this is the third day. We have yet to hear anything from Stormy Buonantony, so I will call that she will not probably send us anything whatsoever. So, in her stead, somebody better. Tim Murray is nice enough to give us some time here today. Fellow competitor in the Circa College Hoops Challenge and fellow host here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. One of a few of us here who are chasing Paul Stone yet again. How are we feeling as we head into the Sweet 16, buddy?
Man, after Humans mushed me on Saturday when I had a half-point lead, and he said, I'm going to call over to the trophy shop and put your name on it. I guess at this point we should just concede Paul Stone's going to win again. He's the champ. He's the greatest college basketball handicapper in the history of the world. And, Paul, if you're listening, we can't catch you. We're just all fighting for second, which is what I got last year, and a lovely gift card to Dom DeMarco's, which I enjoyed. So off to second we go, JVT. That's what we're fighting for.
You did. Some would say that I technically finished second because I could mathematically catch Paul Stone heading into the final weekend and nobody else could. But that's neither here nor there. I haven't said that 1,000 times. So let's go to the contest and the plays this weekend and what we're looking at. So I'll ask you right off the top, when you looked at the card for the Sweet 16, what was the game, the side, the total that stuck out to you?
Yeah, it was St. John's Duke under. I played it right at open. FanDuel had 143.5. I was surprised because DraftKings, I think, opened 141.5, and I thought that was about right. Then FanDuel opened 143.5, so I hit that. It's come down, obviously, to where DraftKings had opened. For our contest purposes, this will be a bet, probably my best bet. We'll see how it ultimately plays out. We did talk to the professor, Aaron Moore, earlier this week on VSiN Primetime. He liked first half under. I like both. I played both. And, you look at St. John's, JVT, how they played offensively against Kansas was a bit bizarre. Kansas said, hey, we dare you to shoot. They said, okay, we'll shoot 35 threes, which is obviously not their game. And you would imagine, does Duke do the same? Patrick Gongba coming back from that injury, played a little bit in the second round game against TCU. I think he just adds another element defensively for this Duke team. And I think that's something we talked about quite a bit as the year went on about this Duke team. They're not as prolific as maybe they were a year ago with Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel, but defensively, man, they get after it. And so does St. John's, as we saw. The big question here is going to be the point guard play. St. John's put a ton of pressure on Kansas, really had a hard time inbounding the ball. You've got Little Boozer at point guard with Foster being hurt. So I think this is a bit of a grinder. Don't have a real strong feel on the side. I know a lot of people would be my guess, JVT, are going to look at St. John's plus the points. I think Duke wins this game by like 5-8, so probably not a play for me on the side, but I do like the under. I think this is a, high 60s type of game, maybe, 68, 62 type of feel between Duke and St. John's and DC.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I was thinking of maybe some gamesmanship of actually using Duke from a side team. Because, and by the way, we're totally in agreement on the under. I bet under 142.5 here, so I'm with you on that. Will be a contest play, but I actually might use Duke as a best bet. I think only because I do think a lot of people are looking at St. John's, and I'm like, you know what? They averaged less than a point per possession against Kansas. They shot like crap, as you alluded to. And Duke, for all of the struggles, offensively have been okay. And I think that they can defend this team, similar to what you just talked about Kansas. I've actually come more on the side of I don't understand why there is such strong support for St. John's here.
Well, I was, I think I was texting with Thomas Gable from the Borgata earlier today, and I was like, you guys going to need St. John's? He said, tale as old as time. So, sports books are going to, see St. John's. I think the Duke struggle against Siena will be more prevalent in the mind of bettors, if I had to guess, than their domination of TCU. And, I think from a gamesmanship standpoint, to your point, I'm not going to bet the side, but I think when you're talking about a contest, I think Duke is probably worth a look for you or me trying to gain ground, because my guess would be that Duke is going to be a popular play. And I'll say this, JVT, and I probably shouldn't be giving away my secrets here, but I bet Texas. I don't know if I'm going to put them in the contest, because I think Texas is also going to be a pretty popular side in the contest, Texas versus Purdue. So I have not figured out what my 5 plays are going to be for our competition here, because I did bet Texas at open at +8. Right now it's 6.5, 7. I like Texas in this spot. I think Purdue maybe has a little bit of regression, but my gut tells me a lot of people are going to be on the Longhorns here plus the points. So I might leave that game off my contest card when the deadline rolls around later today.
Yep, I would agree with that. Deadline for our selections of the Circuit College Hoops Challenge due today at 6 p.m. Pacific time, if I remember that correctly. So make sure everybody who is listening that is in the contest, put your picks in. All right, actually, and we haven't had anybody miss this week or this year, so that's a very good thing. A very good thing. Everybody's been participating. Tim Murray with us, VSiN Primetime. By the way, college football betting podcast. You're still putting out episodes, correct? So make sure you check that out as well. There is no off season at all. I want to ask your opinion on a couple of games that I haven't heard a ton of opinions on. Let's go Iowa State, Tennessee. Jefferson, we're getting the same vague stuff coming out of Iowa State. I mean, I think the quote was continuing to progress, whatever that means, as I put in my notes. What do we make of this? We're starting to see those 4.5s disappear, 4s, and maybe some juice 3.5 starting to reappear. Total 138.5 against the Volunteers of Tennessee.
I took a little bet on Tennessee. I know it's Rick Barnes, and you can make your jokes about how much he struggled, obviously, in the tournament. But, so far this year, they were way outclassed Miami. And then I was impressed by the performance we saw from them against Virginia. I mean, they got some studs on this team. Jacoby Gillespie, the transfer from Maryland, is a very, very good lead guard. Nate Amen is going to be a lottery pick. It's hard not to be impressed by what we saw from Iowa State in the second round. Even without Joshua Jefferson, Tamin Lipsey was on another world. Milan Momcilovic is one of the best, if not the best, three-point shooter in all of college basketball. But, with Joshua Jefferson, I pointed this out on Twitter. It's worth noting Joshua Jefferson, per KenPom, is the second best player in college basketball this year, only behind Cameron Boozer. So, yes, they did not miss him as they went on a massive run, and it looked like Kentucky just kind of gave up on that game. But speaking of that contest that we're a part of, 4.5 is the number. I think Tennessee's probably going to be on my card. I did take a little 4.5 here with the Volunteers. I think this is a real grind of a game, and wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee won this game against Iowa State, even though, once again, the performance we saw down 7 late in the first half to go on a 47-17 run, the Cyclones, was very, very impressive. But even if Joshua Jefferson plays, JVT, is he going to be 100% dealing with that ankle injury? So I don't think he will be. I think Tennessee makes this a real good game, and I think 4.5 is worth a look.
I do want to ask you about one more game, but I want to make sure we get your thoughts. Is there another game, side, or total that you've got on your card already? I mentioned Texas. I'm just kind of starting to fall out a little bit on that one. The one game that really intrigues me, and you know me, I don't like to lay numbers very much, and I love this Arkansas team. I'm looking at Arizona here at 7.5. I think the size is just so much for Arkansas. There's no depth for Arkansas. Darius Acuff is amazing. I know Kurt Heelan, not the biggest fan of his defense, as I heard yesterday on your program, which is a fair critique of Darius Acuff. He's an elite offensive player, but Rob Martin of High Point was having his way getting to the bucket in that second round game. I just think the depth of Arkansas
really is an issue here. Brazil got banged up in that High Point game. Could he fall into foul trouble? Will we see Nick Pringle here return for the Razorbacks? So I have a future in Arkansas, but I think it ends here against Arizona. And I think at 7.5, I'm really tempted to look at laying it with the Wildcats.
That was the game I wanted to ask you about, and you and I are on the same wavelength there. We're not getting the best of it in the contest at 8, but I still think I might use it only because, too, I don't think a lot of people will be using our Arizona at the very least, and you might be going up against a couple of people who've got Arkansas potentially. But I would agree with you on all points, and I do wonder how Acuff's going to look on offense, just given the big bodies that they're going to be able to throw at him on the other end, too. So very much looking forward to it. Tim, appreciate it. I would wish you good luck, but I want to beat you, so I hope you do terribly this week.
And I just want to say I had to wear my Nats hat because we're not in last place yet.
That's right. Not yet. You might not be. There's some upside there. Tim Murray, everybody. You can follow him up on X at *1TimMurray. And, of course, check out VSiN Primetime. Brackets for everyone. This is for bettors, folks. The VSiN March Betting Challenge. It is still going. We're talking about all these lines that we're discussing contest-wise. They're available here, too. And you can get in on this as well. Play for free. Go to VSiN.com/contest. We're down to the Sweet 16. You got to make 5 picks, spreads or totals. Still plenty of prizes on the line. And remember, if you have a free Edge Boost account, every prize doubles. Go to VSiN.com/contest. Get your picks in now. That is VSiN.com/contest. And when you get there, just go ahead and mosey on over. You can check the standings, the leaderboard, and then you can click on shows, and you can see that VSiN Primetime #1 and Money Moves #2. Common thread, I have been a host on both, and I think that's exactly why. When we come back, Zach Cohen, give us some thoughts on this massive NBA card and some bets to cash this evening.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Our conversation with Zach Cohen brought to you by Upside. Download the free Upside app. Earn real cash back every time you fill up. Use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. All right, we head out. Welcome in one Zachary Cohen, host of Hardwood Handicappers, a writer up on the website at VSiN.com. I believe the official title is Senior Editor. I actually never remember what the title is. I think that's correct. Zach, welcome. Is that your title?
Yes, that is my title. Thank you for having me on. How's it going?
It's going well. As you can tell, I'm totally not having an issue here with the brain thoughts and getting things together. I will get back on track coming up here in a moment. I wanted to ask you something here before we get into some of the best bets for tonight. And this is, I'm going to throw at you left field because this is coming down right now. But we are getting quotes from Adam Silver right now because we had the Board of Governors meeting and the vote on expansion. It's not about expansion. He is saying that he is going to get this thing done in terms of tanking, that this is going to cut this thing down, and that they're going to adjust lottery odds for next year. We don't know what that's going to be, but just a quick thought on what that could mean, because we've talked about this every day. You get these big favorites because all these teams are throwing things to the wayside. I think it's because they know it's the last year of tanking, and they're doing it in a really big way. But how would that affect the end of the year if they're really going to change these odds and flatten them out even more?
Yeah, I think not only is it potentially the last year of tanking, it's a really good draft class to be doing it just because the top of this draft is so good. So I think that factors into it. But yeah, flattening out the lottery odds is definitely something that I think would work a little bit. If there's just less incentive to lose, that helps everything. So I know that that's not going to be a perfect system because, still not making the postseason would be something that would benefit a team. But if, there's no benefit to being 1 as opposed to being 14, definitely helps a little bit. I think that there are other things that they could do, things that they've already discussed. I mean, that Shams article that came out on ESPN that kind of dove into some of the ideas was definitely a step in the right direction. It almost seems like they've been hearing everybody's suggestions and they're considering throwing like all of them at next season.
The quotes from Silver right now as he is speaking, quote, "We are going to fix this in terms of tanking, full stop." The other quote was, "Going into next season, the incentives regarding the lottery and tanking will be completely different than they are now." So something to monitor for next year. We'll get some answers to that coming up soon. All right, let's talk about some best bets, though, what we're looking at here a little bit later today. I did want to get your thoughts on Oklahoma City and Boston, though, first, because the Thunder are seemingly a very oddly short favorite against the Celtics by my measure. But the last time I had that thought, the Lakers went out and lost on the road to the Detroit Pistons. What do you make of this? We're down to now 1.5 with a total of 218.5.
Right there with you, and I was right there with you with the Lakers and the Pistons, so maybe we are heading towards another loss, but I do think that there's a little bit too much love for the Celtics, and I'm not sure if it's just an odds makers thing or if it's just a general public. I do think that people see Jason Tatum out there playing 30-plus minutes, scoring a decent amount, and they think that everything's fine and well. I do think, though, that he has looked a little bit slower than people think defensively. I think that overall, when you kind of look at their rotation, there's like 3 or 4 attackable players in there between, Tatum, Pritchard, Shireman, whoever they have playing the center position. I just kind of think that the Thunder offense, which is the weaker side of the basketball for them, is going to look like a machine tonight. And I think that Oklahoma City's defense is as well equipped as anyone in the league to slow down Boston. I just think that you're going to see, all of their wing defenders thrown on Tatum and Jaylen Brown, making life difficult for them. And I do think that Derek White's going to have a pretty hard time getting off clean looks. And I think that the center position is going to be something to monitor here, just because I do really think that the Celtics are a really good center short of being where they need to be in terms of actually taking that step towards contention. Meanwhile, the Thunder have the option of playing Hartenstein if they want to go big, or moving Holmgren up to the 5. I think it's going to be a position that ends up deciding this game.
All right, let's talk about a couple of other games here, because I know you have some added plays, part of some fun parlays. Let's talk Lakers and Pacers. Really good injury report for the Pacers today. You have pretty much everybody that's going to be available, and this isn't really saying anything, but these are the games that I'm going to come in and try to back Indiana. There's a rogue 10 out there. That's where I'm sitting right now at Circa. I know you use the Lakers as part of your parlay that you put together, but what do you make of this from the side perspective where it's priced 9.5 total, 238.5?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be looking to the over at 238.5, because if Indiana's going to have their guys, I do think they're going to be able to score on Los Angeles. I think that we saw kind of the Lakers travel and play a tough road game against the Pistons, and defensively they kind of didn't show up again. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again against the Pacers, who we know can, create efficient looks whenever they want to. Meanwhile, the Lakers, just awesome offensively right now. Luka's playing out of his mind. I think that they're going to get whatever they want against a really bad Pacers defense. So if I had to take something side or total, I would go over here, but the way that I played this is, as you noted, Lakers money line in a parlay with some of the other playoff teams that are facing tanking teams. So I took the Lakers with the Spurs against the Grizzlies, Nuggets against the Mavericks, even though that's the second leg of a back-to-back, and Blazers against the Bucks. I think that those 4 teams will get the job done tonight.
What do we make of Atlanta catching 2.5 against Detroit? Pistons are 3-0 straight up and against the spread since they've lost Cade Cunningham. But I keep reiterating here on this show, it was the Warriors, the Wizards, and then you caught the Lakers on this road trip. Maybe I'm overlooking that, but I feel like I want to take my shot again against the Pistons. But I feel like you. I know that you were taking your shots against the Lakers, and it wasn't really working out. But I feel like I'm ready to get hurt again here, especially if Johnson plays tonight. That's going to be a big one. But Hawks plus 2.5 on the road against the Pistons.
Yeah, so I was looking really strongly at Hawks money line with you, and I ended up just kind of talking myself out of it. I played an alternate spread plus 8.5 here with something in the late game. I took Raptors plus 10.5 against the Clippers. Those two together, it's about minus 115. But I am with you. I think that Atlanta is a really tough matchup for Detroit. You just kind of look at some of the numbers for the Hawks since the All-Star break. 14-2 with a plus 12.3 net rating. Number 2 defense in the league, right behind the Thunder. Numbers very, very close to OKC too. I just think that without Cade, it's really kind of hard to imagine this Detroit team scoring, efficiently against Atlanta. But at the same time, I said the same thing when they faced the Lakers, and that is kind of why I scared myself a little bit, took some extra points, and I did kind of have a lean on the Raptors as well later tonight if they're healthy. They have a lot on the injury report, so that could be end up where I get screwed here.
Yeah, 2 big names to watch out to Raider for who those who were with us earlier. Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickley, both questionable to play. Jakob Poeltl is as well, but Jakob Poeltl is, Jakob Poeltl for the Toronto Raptors at this point. Zach Cohen with us again. Harbor Handicappers, make sure you check out the podcast. Daily write-ups up at the website at VSiN.com as well. All right, let's throw a couple more games at you before we get you out of here, and I got one big picture question. Miami-Cleveland, what do you make of this spot for the Cavaliers? Second leg of a back-to-back, somewhat tough game against the Magic. Last night, they're 2.5-point favorites, totals 242.5 or 243.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to take a side or a total here, I would go Miami. It is a second leg of a back-to-back for Cleveland. I think the Heat have proven that they have been, a top 6 or so team in the Eastern Conference. We really only talk about the 4, but this is a team that's probably in the second tier and playing some really good basketball. So against a poorly rested Cavaliers team that's missing both Jared Allen and Jalen Tyson, I would expect Miami to find a way to keep this close or win. The play that I did make, though, was Sam Merrill over 12.5 points at minus 125. And you just kind of look over the last couple of games. This is a guy that scored 13 plus in 5 consecutive games. I've said it before with you, the Miami defense, like you could look at all the metrics, it looks really good. They are a top 5 team when you look at adjusted defensive rating. But the fact that they play at the number 1 pace in the league, they don't defend above the break 3 as well. That stuff still allows you to have good games if you were an offensive player going against them. So Merrill, who has struggled in 2 meetings with the Heat this season, I think he's going to knock down some shots from deep, and I do think he might score a little bit in transition. I think this is a good matchup for him, even though the numbers this season might say otherwise.
There is no way that the normal person would want to watch Wizards and Jazz, but we do have a development here when you look at the way that Ace Bailey has been playing. What are we doing? 30% usage rate over the last 3 games. He's averaging 31, 7, and 3.5. Are we going to ride something with Bailey here from a player prop standpoint?
Yeah, so I took Bailey over 2.5 assists, and I also took over 3.5 for a little bit less at plus 230. I just feel like Bailey, you said it, he's had a really high usage rate over the last couple of games, up at like 32.7% over the last 3. And you look at this matchup against the Wizards, who can't guard at the rim, can't guard threes, can't guard in isolation, pretty much everything. And you probably think he's going to have a big game as a scorer, which he might. But I do think he has been doing a good job of kind of reading the game. I think the game is slowing down for him a little bit over the last couple of weeks, which is why you're seeing such high point totals. And the passing has kind of been there. I mean, you look at some of his potential assist numbers. He's up at 7 potential assists over the last 3 games. Also, I think 4.2 adjusted assists per game. So with some better shot-making luck from his teammates, I think you're going to see him flirt with 4 or 5 assists in this game. And like I said, it's about as soft of a defensive matchup as you could possibly hope for. And yeah, weird player props have kind of been my niche lately. I had Dylan Cardwell last night, had Rasheer Fleming, who ended up losing. But yeah, I'm finding some value in these guys.
Hardly all of the props that he has up on the website. Go check him out at VSiN.com. Zach Cohen again, and Harvard Handicappers episode up every single day. I listen every day, so why don't you? Make sure you check them out up on the website. Zach, we appreciate it. I'm going to do a little business on the front. Zach, stick around. I have something to ask you or tell you during the break, so if you could stick around for 2 seconds. But our conversation with Zach brought to you by Upside. Turn your gas purchases into real cash back with the free Upside app. Download Upside now. Use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill-up. Not done with the association by any stretch. When we come back, I'll have my best bets. Got a couple in the NBA that we'll have tonight. Rehash some of the injuries that we have updated here on the injury report. And some last thoughts on the Sweet 16 card. And a side that I want to add as well that we will discuss when we come back and wrap up Money Moves.
You know, this is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/future.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you got a group chat full of hot takes, Cut was built for you. Cut is a social betting platform that lets you bet directly against your friends and other users on basically anything: sports, politics, pop culture, even personal bets. Every bet is fully customizable and pre-funded, which means no more chasing someone down when they lose, no flaking, no excuses, just results. And unlike traditional betting apps, Cut actually gives you cash back on every single bet you make, even against your friends. Now, you can get a 15% deposit bonus on your first deposit when you use promo code VSiN. Head to cut.com, KUTT.com. or download in the App Store and use promo code VSiN. Coming up in 15 minutes, Follow the Money will be with you. Mitch Moss and Mike Samich will be here for the next 3 hours, take you through everything Sweet 16, Major League Baseball, and more. I also believe that Mike Samich was a witness to the event that I mentioned yesterday when we talked about the cut and the fact that we were out at a Dave & Buster's many years ago, and that one VSiN host still has not paid the $40 that they owe from our Dave & Buster's Olympics. I think Mike Samich was there. He's not the host that did not pay up that night, by the way. Oh, screw it. I'll just say it was Matt Brown. Matt Brown still owes Adam Hill of the Las Vegas Review-Journal $40, allegedly. That is not my accusation. That is his. So, Matt, if you would like to address it, Adam Hill is your accuser. I do want to read one thing. Big Rig checks in on on Twitter, at MeJVT at VSiN Live. Hot take, March Madness contest format isn't super helpful to the subscribers since the participants simply go oppo the leader in the attempt to catch up. Then on the website, you get 10 selections on the sides. VSiN pros don't actually like to just catch up. Big Rig, I would say that's why I've made my intentions clear with the selections outside of just the Duke play. The other ones are the ones that I do like. But for me personally, yes, the Duke play will be a gamesmanship contest play, which is why I wanted to talk about that outwardly here, as opposed to just putting it up there and having that be something that maybe people think that is a side that I genuinely do like. I would actually say I would rather be on the Duke side, but it is purely an angle from a contest standpoint, given that we only have 12 picks left. Larger sample size contests, like when we first get started, I think there's something to it for what you're looking for, but can understand why you would think in that direction. So, but appreciate the feedback as always. And reach out whenever you want at MeJVT. Earl checks in, says, take Duke out. That leaves 15 teams. Obviously, this year's Duke team has already beat 5 of them. Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, Michigan, and Michigan State, by far the class of the field. I think we are at the point where maybe Duke is, I don't know, a little underrated. You go back to the way the ACC has performed in the tournament, and then you rethink. I mean, we talked about it a lot on this show, how Duke tore apart the ACC and was dominating every single one of those teams. And then you realize when you see the best that the conference has to offer in the NCAA tournament, and you're like, yeah, these teams kind of stink. Maybe there was something to them absolutely dominating, but they did just that. They dominated them. And I do think that this team's going to play a little bit better here as we get there to the Sweet 16. So we will see. Let's get this thing done. By the way, we are getting information on the event. And that happened February 17, 2024. Shout out, Luke. We have reached the 2-year anniversary already. That is hilarious that you have that. See, $40. Okay, we've all paid up except for one person. Yes, Luke was there. It was a little bit of a hazy night. So I'm trying to remember everybody that was there. But I do know I was there, and I do know I paid my money. And that is about it. All right, with that, let's get to best bets. We'll get back to the Sweet 16 here in a moment. We'll talk about the side that I do like and want to add, just kind of playing with where the number might ultimately end up. But best bets didn't have anything last night, so let's just go ahead to tonight. 3 plays, all NBA, as we're starting to get, before you run, you got to stretch, you got to limber up, you got to get loose. Let's start to get loose and get ready because, folks, before you know it, the NBA postseason is going to be here. 3 bets tonight in the NBA. We'll start with the Atlanta Hawks, who are on the road taking on the Detroit Pistons. We'll take one more shot at this thing. Hawks, you can get 3 here with Atlanta. Those are some threes that are starting to appear both here in Vegas and nationally. And I will take a stab with Atlanta. We'll hope that Johnson's going to be available tonight for Atlanta, but even if they're not, big, rangy defensive team. And I do think the Pistons, as we have evidence of, are going to struggle offensively as you move into a larger sample size without Cade Cunningham as he recovers from this collapsed lung. This is eerily similar to what we saw with the Los Angeles Lakers the other day. Difference here being, though, of course, is that the Pistons are being priced as the favorite as opposed to looking at 1.5 and saying they can do that. They can win that game. I think Atlanta's got enough defensively, even without Johnson, to make this a contest in which they can win. I know that we talked to Zach about this. Flirted a little bit, I think he said, with the money line price. Ultimately added Atlanta in one of those parlays that he puts together up on the website. But either way, Atlanta catching 2.5 or 3. You can grab 3, and I think that's going to be the side worth backing. So we'll go Hawks +3 against the Detroit Pistons. Speaking of the Lakers, we will go with Indiana tonight. There is a 10 here at Circa. Total is 238, but the Indiana Pacers had a very favorable injury report today that I think is going to be beneficial to them, obviously. But big news for them is that pretty much all of the key players are going to be available. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, all probable. Remember, Zubac's done for the year, but these are all guys that, again, you want them out there. They're going to play with pace and frequency. Their offensive efficiency is going to be up. They're going to be able to defend at a higher level. These are the times when I've looked to target Indiana. This thing opened up 11 We're down to that 9.5-point mark. Still think that's worth playing, given that you're going to have your relative full complement of players here for the Indiana Pacers. Taking on the Lakers in the midst of this road trip, we'll go with Indiana plus 9.5 at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. And we'll go with it one more time. The banana in the tailpipe, I think we used that properly last time. I'll fall for it. This seems kind of short. Oklahoma City on the road against the Boston Celtics. 2.5-point favorites, totals 218.5. I disagree with the number. Obviously, with all of these numbers, I would disagree with it here. The Thunder are fully healthy. Yes, they have won 12 of their, the 12 straight, but they have failed to cover in 9 of those games. The Thunder have been a little overvalued by the betting market. They have been heavily priced, and for a reason, because they are the best team in the NBA right now. But they are fully healthy, man. There is nobody on this injury report that is of consequence. Jalen Williams has told the media his wrist feels better than ever. You've got your full complement of weapons up front, and, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Celtics are a very good team, and they're going to arguably be the best team in the Eastern Conference, although I think the Cavaliers will have something to say about that. But OKC at minus 2.5 with a full roster and a team that's been playing as well as they have been, I am ready to get hurt here with the Thunder as a short favorite on the road against the Boston Celtics. So somewhat surprised, not only by the fact that this is short, but the fact that we're starting to see some movement. I mean, some twos are starting to pop up here, 2.5 as well. But I think it's a fair ask to look here and see that Oklahoma City can get this win over the Boston Celtics. So OKC minus that 2.5 against Boston. So the recap, we'll go with the Atlanta Hawks plus 3, the Oklahoma City Thunder minus that 2.5, and the Lakers opponent, the Indiana Pacers, plus 9.5. By the way, we should note for the Los Angeles Lakers, I don't think I mentioned this at all, DeAndre Ayton is questionable to play at the last look at the injury report. They update these every 15 minutes, so make sure you keep an eye on Ayton's status heading into this game against Indiana. With that, we're going to be all done. Last couple of minutes, 2 points here. First off, in terms of the NBA, we're starting to get some more quotes from Adam Silver when it comes to a lot of things. The other thing that is going to be a very big topic of conversation is obviously the 65-game minimum that we are seeing for these players when it comes to awards, when it comes to all NBA teams, things of that nature. That was addressed as well. Adam Silver from Tim Bontemps says that while the league will never say it won't negotiate with the NBA PA, the 65-game rule is working and has worked, and that's a really fair point to bring up, and many have. We can all complain about this 65-game minimum and the fact that the NBA might want to look into changing this. At the end of the day, this was collectively bargained. This was part of what the league and the Players Association agreed to. The NBA PA has started to talk a lot about it. They made a statement about Cade Cunningham the other day, but they agreed to these terms, and now they're starting to bite them here a little bit. So we will see if Silver and the NBA will budge, but judging by those comments today, it sounds like that's not going to be the case. And the other point here is just very much curious about what these flattened out lottery odds are going to look like and how it's going to affect the NBA next season. We'll wrap on this, though. So the game that I was talking about in the Sweet 16 is that Arkansas-Arizona game. I haven't given my thoughts on it. We got Tim Murray's thoughts on it a little bit earlier. Check out wherever you get your podcasts, Money Moves, like, rate, review, subscribe. You can hear what Tim had to say. But the Arkansas Razorbacks do seem to be a very popular selection. We're starting to see those 8s disappear. 7.5s are starting to be the predominant number. I will have Arizona. We're just going to wait to see if this gets a little bit lower. I think it's a bad matchup for Acuff when you're talking about what he has to face on the opposite defense. A lot of big-bodied guards. He's going to get his shot. He's a very good player. But do think that there is going to be maybe a few more possessions in which Acuff is not as successful. And it's a brilliant point by Tim as well. I mean, you had that little guard from High Point blowing by Acuff and really challenging him. And if you don't think a big guard like Braden Burries or others are going to bring him over in almost every single matchup and try to go after him, I think that's something that's definitely going to work against Arkansas. And the fact that their 6-man rotation is going to work against a deep Arizona team, I actually think that the Arizona Wildcats are maybe being a little undersold here. So 7.5 right now, I actually think that's playable, but we'll wait and see if maybe 7. I don't think 6.5 would appear by the time we get to game time tomorrow, but the Wildcats are going to be there, and they will be a contest play for me as well, going back to that, because I do think Arkansas is going to be a relatively popular selection. And I've been pretty consistent on this. I mean, I've been buying into this Arizona team for a while, and it's not saying anything. They're one of the favorites to win this entire thing, but there is a thought that Tommy Lloyd just can't get it done. You can't get it done until you do, and this might be the year in which Arizona can actually get it done. All right, we appreciate it. Crew, thank you as always. Coming up next, Follow the Money. Mike Somich, Mitch Moss. Yes, Somich gets first billing. They'll be with you for the next 3 hours. Then, of course, VSiN Primetime leading into cashing out. So don't miss any of it. Coverage is going to be fantastic, and we're getting closer and closer to the first game of the Major League Baseball season. See you tomorrow.